Let's talk a little bit more about this, though, as far as terrorists themselves. I mean, earlier you were saying that this does not fall under the Department of Homeland Security's definition. But what is the definition? I mean, yes, this was a white man from Texas. So does that mean officials will only acknowledge terrorist acts that are done from Muslims abroad?
No, not necessarily. When you look at this from the standpoint, there's any number of domestic terrorism groups. The FBI has them broken down in international terrorism cases with al-Qaeda, and then you have domestic terrorism cases.
Let's speak a little bit about politics, Chris. I mean, you've been covering politics in depth for the Washington Examiner. Let's look at the big picture. What will this mean politically for the White House, for Congress? How are they going to react to this?
Well, obviously, we know that the Obama administration has had a lot of concerns about domestic terrorism. Most Americans are focused on the question of international terrorism or radical Islam, homegrown radical Islamic terrorism. But for Janet Napolitano at the Department of Homeland Security and for the rest of the Obama administration, especially the Justice Department, the idea of white supremacist or right-wing or anti-government terrorism has been something that they've really been focused on, to their political detriment, because people haven't always seen that as the most important threat. They'd rather they be focusing on radical Islam.
They should take more cognizance over internal security temash. Internal is like more fugitive, dangerous people inside. They should take more notice inside. They should not be carried away about outside this time.
In confirmation of Prophet T.B. Joshua's words, internal security measures were taken after the raging fire sent massive plumes of thick black smoke rising from the 7-story structure where 200 federal tax employees work.
As authorities raced to the scene, the building's occupants quickly emptied onto the streets. This man was on the 4th floor, 2 stories above the crash.
I heard someone yell, and I looked up, and it was just a burst of flames outside the window.
Initially, at the scene, it appeared only one person was unaccounted for.
I would say, considering the potential here, we're very lucky as far as what we're dealing with. Very fortunate from that side.
Next to the building that was hit were government offices, including those of the FBI.
When I heard that a plane was flying into the building after 9/11, you don't have time to play around. When somebody says that, you get moving.
After President Obama was briefed on the incident, as a precaution, the Colorado-based North American Aerospace Defense Command launched 2 F-16 aircraft from Houston's Ellington Field to conduct an air patrol over the crash area.
Tony, while we're looking at this, let me just tell you something else that we've gotten. One of the things a lot of Americans want to know when you see anything like this, how quickly do we on a national level respond in case this had been a security concern? We have this from NORAD and NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command. This is what they're telling us, that they launched 2 Air Force F-16s out of Ellington Field in Houston after this crash out of what they're calling prudent precaution. These planes were launched at 9:45 a.m. Mountain Time, they're saying, which is 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. They're telling us that both aircraft are still in the air in Austin patrolling.
Notice the prophet's words that more attention should be paid to homeland security.
The great country in America, people should be security conscious. More attention to be paid on internal security, homeland security.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says
another thing that Homeland Security is going to have to deal with.
Matt Chandler, he is the spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security.
The Department of Homeland Security and for
The Department of Homeland Security said this does not appear to be terrorism, but officials are now investigating whether the pilot had a beef with the IRS, which had an office in the building.
After the attack, the U.S. Homeland Security began investigating all angles. Rep. Michael McCaw, a Republican from Austin on the Homeland Security Committee, said the panel will take up the issue of how to better protect buildings from attacks with planes. With heightened security, it was clear that this attack was an internal suicide attack by a dangerous person inside, just as Prophet T.B. Joshua had said.
It's like more fugitive, dangerous people inside. They should take more notice inside. They should not be carried away about outside this time. From now till March, they should be more vigilant.
Stack apparently set fire to his house about 6 miles from the crash site before embarking on the suicide flight. In a suicide note that was posted on the web, the motive behind the attack was revealed. In this note, Stack vented his frustration and anger against the US Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and the US government. Let's watch the news.
If you're reading this, you're no doubt asking yourself, why did this have to happen? The simple truth is that it's complicated and has been coming for a long time. He had a lot of problems with the IRS. He was having money problems. He didn't work for a long time. The stresses were mounting, and eventually he took matters in his own hand. Later in this ranting, he writes this. Second full screen now, please. Sadly, starting in the early ages, we in this country have been brainwashed to believe that in return for our dedication and service, our government stands for justice for all. We're further brainwashed to believe that there is freedom in this place and that we should be ready to lay our lives down for noble principles represented by the Founding Fathers. Remember, one of these was no taxation without representations. There are two interpretations for every law, he says, one for the very rich and one for the rest of us. Oh, and the monsters are the very ones making and enforcing the laws. The Inquisition is still alive and well today in this country. That little lesson in patriotism cost me $40,000 plus 10 years of my life and set my retirement plans back to zero. It made me realize for the first time that I live in a country with an ideology that's based on a total and complete lie. It also made me realize not only how naive I've been, but also the incredible stupidity of the American public, that they buy hook, line, and sinker the crap about their freedom, and that they continue to do so with eyes closed in the face of overwhelming evidence and all that keeps happening in front of them. Well, I mean, let's finish it off with the very end of this thing, and it's just the last few lines, and he summed it up in this way. Sadly, though, I spent my entire life trying to believe it wasn't so, but violence is not only the violence not only is the answer, it is the only answer. The cruel joke is that the really big chunks of stuff at the top have known this all along and have been laughing at and using this awareness against fools like me all along. I saw it written once that the definition of insanity is repeating the same process over and over and expecting the outcome to suddenly be different. I'm finally ready to stop this insanity. Well, Mr. Big Brother IRS man.
Our big brother here, pray January to March against attack. Take care of your airspace.
Well, Mr. Big Brother IRS man, let's try something different. Take my pound of flesh and sleep well.
Notice the way that Stack furiously referred to the US government, using the words Big Brother, the same words used by Prophet T.B. Joshua in the prophecy.
Our big brother here, pray January to March against attack.
I have had all I can stand, he wrote in the note, adding, I choose to not keep looking over my shoulder at Big Brother while he strips my carcass. He concluded by saying, well, Mr. Big Brother IRS man, let's try something different. Take my pound of flesh and sleep well. Stack's suicide note was addressed to Big Brother, the very same term used by Prophet T.B. Joshua when prophesying about an attack and a warning to take care of airspace.
Take care of airspace against attack. January to March, take care of airspace.
This attack was not the only internal security scare that day, Thursday the 18th of February 2010, however, as news also broke of a United Airlines flight bound for San Francisco diverted to Salt Lake City due to a letter found on the plane regarded as a bomb threat.